Okay, hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Espresso with me, Darius Anucauskas. Today's the 25th of November 2019. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to this Monday's morning session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, review the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Okay, so now then, also before we jump into the charts, quick mention of our JFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, and of course our JFD Bank website, and specifically our JFD research page, which we update on a daily basis. So I believe you can find a lot of useful stuff here, so please visit us on jfdbank.com and click on the tab research right here. But for now, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is gold, and I looked at gold last week, and basically I was telling you guys to keep a close eye on some of these levels. Now, initially, yes, we did, in the beginning of the week, we did have a nice push through the 1475 zone, but as you can see, it kind of quickly reversed back to the downside, and the commodity drifted lower, and today, right now, it is testing already the lower side here, this other key important level that I was talking about, the 1459. In a way, if we get a further push lower, then yes, we will aim for slightly lower areas. We'll aim for this 1449 zone, but just slightly below that, we can, or should I say, it could be a possibility to test the low of the 12th of November, or in other words, the current lowest point of November, and that's roughly around the 1445 mark. So in a way, for now, guys, let's keep an eye on this one. Certainly, everything's leaning more towards the downside. Looking at the cash indices right now, they are trying to push higher. So in a way, we're kind of really getting back. It seems like that, of course. We're kind of getting back into the risk-on environment. So gold is losing its attractiveness, and we could see this one drifting further down. But for now, this is the spot where it's very tricky for gold. I mean, there could be a big battle here between the bulls and the bears. But if the bears eventually take the steering wheel here, then yep, we could in a way target the 1449 or even the 1445 levels. In a way, how you could play this one out as well is, of course, keep your eyes on this 1459, but also keep your eyes on this little drop here that we saw on the 18th of November, this little low near the 1458 zone. So in a way, if this could be that little confirmation of further declines, because a drop below this would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and yes, we could aim for these levels that I just talked about. In terms of the upside, now this has to be probably a little bit adjusted now because it kind of shifted a little bit. So in a way, how we could play this one out for now is we'll keep an eye on the high of the 22nd of November, and basically that's the Friday's high, and if we get a push above this level here, the 1473 mark, then yes, we will start considering higher levels. We'll start aiming maybe for the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. But again, if that fails to withhold, then yes, it could push further north. So for now, in a way, long story short, for now we're just going to keep an eye on this one right here, the 1473. A push above this could, yes, open the path towards higher levels. Until then, all this territory for us here will be somewhat of a neutral one. So that's why, guys, for now, let's keep an eye on this one. WTI oil. So I looked at this one yesterday and last week as well, and basically after we had a fantastic run here, and after the the commodity managed to break this key area of resistance near the 57.81 zone. It drifted higher, it tested the 58.70, one of our targets, and then retraced back down. So this was the idea that I was talking about. So we may see a bit of a retracement back to the downside, and if, let's say, if it continues to trade above this 57.80 zone, then there is still a possibility for this one to drift higher. And in a way, we're sticking to that idea for now, because if it continues to hold, if this 57.8 level continues to hold, then yes, we could see another push to the upside. And potentially we'll target the 59.23 level, which is marked by the high of the 20th of September, or even the upper bound of this rising channel. Because for now you can see that the commodity is within this this pattern, so there is a good likelihood we could see this one drifting, or should I say even grinding slowly to the upside. In terms of the downside, now with this one, in a way, we could redraw some of the levels here. So we will take this level here. We're going to keep an eye on this one, the 56.60 mark, roughly around here. That's the low of the 21st of November. In a way, we're going to keep an eye on this one, but ideally, we would like to see another drop here below the lower bound of the of this rising channel. Don't get me wrong, we had a break here. You can see that it kind of the bulls then drove the back up here, back inside this channel. So in a way, how we could keep an eye on this one is if we're, for example, we're going to see a drop through the lower bound of this rising channel, and let's say we see a daily close below this pattern, and then yes, that of course creates more possibilities, more opportunities for the sellers to kind of jump in here and drive this one lower. And the only thing is that we will also keep an eye on the second day kind of activity, because in order not to get something similar as we got here. So on one day, the first day, kind of it dropped lower, it closed below this, below this channel, but then the next day got pushed higher. So if we, for example, see a close below this, below the lower bound of the rising channel, and then the next day ends the day, let's say, also below this pattern. Now this in a way increases the chances of a further drift lower. We're gonna take this tactic. We're gonna use this tactic because we had something like here, basically in the beginning of last week. So yep, we're gonna keep an eye on this one, guys. The same kind of idea here. So, but that's of course in the scenario if we get a drop through the lower bound. If it continues to trade above the 57.80 zone, then we will aim for higher levels. We'll continue targeting higher levels. Jumping into a few interesting ones here. So Bitcoin, I looked at this one recently, so last week to be more precise. So basically what I was saying that after we had our drop here through the 7,333 level, we drifted lower. The crypto managed to test the 6,820 zone, and then it kind of what I was saying, that we may see a bit of retracement. We could see maybe a retest, a revisit of the 7,333 level, this time from underneath. This time that area could play its role as a nice area of resistance. So we managed to get that, so that's wonderful. And what I was saying that what we will be targeting, of course, the same level, the same low of last week near the 6,820, but the next potential target could be seen near the 6,325 level. And let me show you what that level was here in the past. So that's basically basically the high of around the 7th of May, if I'm not mistaken. Just let me double check that. Around 7th of May to this year. So basically, in a way, we are still targeting that one, but don't get me wrong, on the shorter time frame, we are quite overstretched to the downside. So in a way, what could happen here is we could see maybe a bit of another possible correction here, maybe something like this, basically where the where the crypto could retrace back up here, test the psychological 7,000 zone, and if it struggles to push above it, then we could see another round of selling. So for now, everything is not really looking good here for Bitcoin and in general the cryptos. So let's keep an eye on this one. For now, we're targeting lower areas. We will start considering maybe slightly higher levels if we get a push back above this 7,333 mark. Now, of course, then you should still be very careful, because overall we are still below this downside resistance line. So in a way, if we get a push above the 7,333 zone, yes, we will aim for slightly higher levels, but the upside could be limited due to this downside resistance line. But if this downside line gets broken, then we could aim for higher levels. But for now, that's the game plan for Bitcoin. Ethereum, something similar as well here. Again, let's not forget that we are quite extended here to the downside, so maybe a bit of correction could be possible. But overall, not everything's looking good here for Ethereum. And in a way, how we could look at this is basically if Ethereum managed to break a nice range here. So this range was roughly roughly around these levels, basically something like that. It's not ideal, but nevertheless, it was basically nicely ranging. So managed to break the lower side of this range near the 152 mark, somewhere around there, and then drifted lower. Now the target here for Ethereum, and let me just jump into a daily chart in this one, probably that will be much easier. Now, the next potential target for Ethereum to the downside, of course, could be around here near the low of the 4th of March this year, of course, and that's roughly near the 122.55 mark. So that's, like I said, the low of March, the lowest point of March. So good potential target, good area for a possible rebound. But of course, let's see how this is going to play out. For now, everything's kind of leaning more towards the downside. So in a way, we're going to keep an eye on this one. Of course, we do not exclude a possibility of a bit of a correction here back to the upside here. So let's keep an eye on this one. But again, similar story as with Bitcoin. So a bit of correction here to the upside, and then another leg of buying could be possible. Could be something that could happen here. Like I said, given the fact that we are quite extended here to the downside. But again, don't forget that's not these are cryptos. Sometimes they don't trade normally according like the pairs, like for example the currency pairs. So sometimes we can get one-way traffic, but of course recent activity shows that for now it's kind of behaving quite normally. In terms of the upside, we would need to see a pushback above the 152.40, roughly around here, in order to consider, let's say, slightly higher levels, maybe the upside here. Yep, then we'll take it from there, guys. USDJPY. Now, something quite interesting. So last week I was talking about this one. Basically, I was telling you guys to keep a close eye on this downside resistance line taken from the high of the 8th of November, and this morning we saw a nice pop here to the upside. Also, what I was saying, that yes, even if we see a pop through this downside resistance line, ideally we would need to see a push above the 108.85 zone before we could examine higher levels. So we did get a nice push above that level. You can see that currently the pair is balancing around this area, this 108.85 zone. The next target for us is the 109.07, so which is marked by the high of the 18th of November. Of course, if the buying continues, then we could start aiming slowly towards the 109.2930 zone here, marked by the high of the 12th of November, and then we'll take it from there. But for now, the first kind of indication here that the pair wants to travel higher is met. So the or the first kind of trigger, it was met here, so it managed to break this downside line. But we need to see a nice stronger move away from this 108.84, and if we do see something like that, then yes, it could push further towards the 109.07 level. In terms of the downside here, now this is where we could maybe try and capture something here on the downside. Now, in a way, if we get a drop back below this downside line and below the 108.70 zone, so this is where it could become a little bit more interesting here for the sellers, and we could then target the 108.45 or even this this area right here near this flattish kind of flattish upside support line taken from the low of the 14th of November, or near this 108.25 level. So for now, guys, keep your eyes on these areas here. Like I said, this is for the downside, the 108.70. We'll keep an eye on that level in case this decides to drop lower. But with the upside, let's see if it can rebound from this 108.84. If it can, then yes, we will aim for the 109.07 or maybe slightly higher levels here near the 109.30. So some good potential areas of resistance. Let's see how that's going to play out. GBPCAD now, very quickly on this. So haven't looked at this one for quite a while, and basically it continues to balance nicely near this upside support line taken from the low of the 14th of October. In a way, we're waiting for a drop now below this upside line, and if we do get a drop below this upside line, then we'll keep an eye on this 1.7037 mark, which is the low of last week. And if that gets broken, then yep, this in a way also could place the rate below its 100 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, and then we could start targeting the 1.691415 mark roughly around here. And basically, by the time this could, let's say, could potentially travel lower, in a way it could also test this 200 EMA as well around this level. So that's why we're going to keep it short and simple for now. The target for us is going to be this level right here near the 200 EMA at 1.691415 mark. But of course, for that, in order to consider such a move, we need to see a drop below the 1.7037 level first. If this decides to push away from this upside line to the upside and starts breaking the high of Friday near the 1.716869, or in a way, actually, yes, is that correct? Let me just double check. Right, okay, so near the 71.74.73 mark, so that's probably a little bit better. So if we get a push above this 1.71.74, then yes, this is where probably more buyers could start joining in and potentially driving this one higher, maybe towards the high of last week near the 1.7270, and then we'll take it from there. But for now, that's, like I said, that's the game plan for this pair. AUDUSD, very quick mentioning of this one. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I've talked about this one as well on Friday, but basically what we're doing here is we remain neutral and we continue observing the this downside resistance line, this tentative downside resistance line taken from the high of the 7th of November. So in a way, if that line gets broken and the rate climbs above the 0.6803, then yep, we will aim for slightly higher levels. But if this decides to drop lower, if it continues to respect this downside line, and if it moves below the 0.6781 zone, now this is where we will start looking at lower levels, but to get a little bit more comfortable with the downside, ideally a drop below the 0.6766 would be needed, because that's the current lowest point of November, and a drop below this level would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and we could then aim for these levels right here near the 0.6719 mark, and then we'll take it from there. EURUSD, the final one, so managed to finally break this level that I talked about for the whole of last week, and on Friday the break happened and it dropped below this 1.1043 zone. It drifted lower, it tested the 1.1016 mark perfectly, rebounded from it, and now you can see it's kind of now thinking what to do now. So in a way, how we could play this one carefully is, of course, keep an eye on this level right here near this 1.1016. If we see a drop below that, then yep, we will aim for that level near the 1.0989. Again, I've talked about this one previously, and for now we're going to aim only for this level. We want to see how it's going to perform around here, basically. If it's not going to start forming somewhat of a maybe like a wide double bottom, but again, that's just an idea here for now. Let's keep it short and simple, guys. If we see a drop below the 1.1016, then yes, we will aim for this 1.0989. But if it starts climbing back above the 1.1043, now again, this is where it could become a little bit tricky. Of course, there is a possibility that we could see this one pushing back to the upside here, but we'll be very careful again. This is going to be somewhat of a neutral territory for us, because ideally we would like to see a push above the 1.1093 level and only then target higher levels, because this would confirm a forthcoming higher high here, and yes, it could become a little bit more interesting for the buyers. So of course, again, as I said, if we get a push above the 1.1043 back above this level, all this area right here could be a bit of a neutral one, but maybe if let's say if it climbs above the 1.1067-68 zone, maybe we'll consider a push higher here, but we'll have a very tight stop loss just in case this decides to reverse and drops lower again. So that's why, guys, be very careful with this one, and for us to get comfortable with the upside, it's still the same level, the 1.1093. In terms of the downside, a drop below the 1.1016 could open the path towards lower areas, but for now we will only target the 1.0989 zone. So let's keep an eye on this one. Okay, guys, I really hope you found it useful. So keep an eye on the economic calendar today. To be honest, it's quite quiet, but we do have some German figures coming out. So the German IFO Business Climate Index, so that's coming out shortly. So keep an eye on that one. We may see maybe a bit of movement in the euro. And then of course, well, it's a relatively quiet day in terms of economic data, probably mainly to watch out for news surrounding the trade talks, China-US trade talks, and of course the UK elections. So keep your eyes on those, guys. Like I said, be very careful, have your stop losses in place, and we'll catch up later on at my traders tea time. As always, 14:15 GMT. For now, I hope you have a beautiful trading day, and I'll see you later. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.